exclusively AMD Chair and CEO Lisa Su. Lisa, I would be wrong and remiss not to start by saying congratulations on an amazing quarter and an even better forecast.
Thank you, Jim. It's great to be here with you guys.
Okay, so Lisa, you kind of jaws dropped when you talked about what you said November would be for CPUs versus now. I think I just need you to say it to people because I was astonished when I heard it on the call.
Well, first of all, Jim, we had a great start of the year. It's really an exciting time for AI. And I think I've been on this program a few times, Jim, and I've told you guys that we are at the very early innings of AI. And you always ask me, like, what does that mean? What does early innings mean? And I think what we can say now for sure is we are seeing that inflection point in the market where, large enterprises are really starting to benefit that AI can really bring to their businesses, and you're seeing the adoption rate really increase. And what that means is you need a lot of compute. And we're always very excited to be here to talk about our accelerator roadmap and the large market that's available there. But what we're also seeing is that you need a lot of CPU compute, which is really the place where we have such a strong portfolio. So you've heard about agents. I can say agents are really driving tremendous demand in the overall AI adoption cycle, and we're very excited to be in the middle of it.
Well, let's talk about the cycle, because one of the things that happened that you mentioned is that we had thought the CPU to GPU ratio, 1 to 4, 1 to 8, is closer 1 to 1. Can you tell people what that means in terms of the sheer number of CPUs that we need now when we have agents and we have the data center?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Jim, think about it this way. When we're using AI, every time we use AI, we're asking it questions and it's returning answers for us. But now, with the power of the new models, we can actually have these agents where each of us could have, 2 or 3 or even 5 or 10 agents. And those agents are doing work on behalf of, all of our employees and each of us. And what that means is you need more CPU compute as well, which is the general purpose processing around that. So, you mentioned we are always watching this market. We're constantly talking to our customers, constantly looking at new workloads. And as recently as last year, in November, we thought the CPU TAM was going to be, let's call it, growing at about 18 to 20%, which, by the way, was a much higher number than people previously thought. And now what we're seeing is, we think that rate is doubling, and we're seeing that the CPU market may be over $120 billion by the time we get to 2030, growing at over 35%. And it just tells you how much AI is actually doing. So from my standpoint, I think it's really a validation of everything that we believed. But what's happening is the usefulness, the utility of AI is actually increasing at even a faster pace than we originally thought 6 months ago.
Well, before I turn it over to my colleagues, because those numbers are just astounding, is there enough capacity? I look at Taiwan Semi and how much and how much 3 nano they've got, and I am concerned that perhaps there isn't enough for you, and you're up to 41% of the market against Intel, but much bigger margins. Is there enough capacity for you?
Well, the great news about this, Jim, is we have been planning for this cycle. We have always believed that when AI adoption really explodes, that you would need all kinds of compute, CPUs, GPUs, other accelerators, ASICs. We have that complete portfolio. And we've been working with all of our supply chain partners, including TSMC, including our back-end capacity, including now we're spending a lot of time with data center operators to ensure that they have the power ready for all of these huge deployments. So the main thing we can say is, yes, it's tight for sure. That when we look at it, there's a lot of demand out there, but we have a world-class supply chain that has been building for this moment. So we're very, very much focused on ensuring that our largest customers, who are all the largest hyperscalers in the world, as well as the top enterprises, are getting the compute that they need to accomplish their AI objectives.
So, Lisa, I'd love to go back to sort of this incredible increase in TAM. You just give us more specifics as possible. What changed in sort of the customer conversations? Was there any moment sort of that made you say, wait a second, we're way off here in terms of what we think things are going to, how much they're going to need?
Yeah, David, it's a great point. We have been watching the development of the CPU market continuing to increase. Certainly last year, we've talked about, seeing the increase in the CPU market TAM. I think it's really been over the last 90 days, David, where we've talked to every major hyperscaler and every customer is talking about not only what they need in 26, because frankly, 26 is very much already in progress, but we're now talking about long-term, what do they need in 2027, what do they need in 2028? We're talking about just how much CPU do you need compared to the accelerator. And the main thing that I can say is that we are seeing a shifting of the workload. That's what gives me confidence, because whenever you look at these cycles, you never want to think about, hey, are we just doing catch-up demand? Because catch-up demand is nice, but it's much, much better when you see durable, long-term workloads that are just requiring a different amount of compute. And that's what we're seeing today. And I've gotten a lot of conviction in that over the last 90 days, both spending time with our largest customers, as well as just our own experience and what we're seeing in operating with AI. There's just a broad set of workloads that you need to satisfy in order to really get the benefit of the AI capabilities.
Yeah, speaking of one of your largest customers, this Meta deal up to 6 gigawatts, multiple GPU generations. I mean, the numbers are just, they're hard to conceive of to a certain extent. How much of your H2 Helios production is spoken of, for example, by Meta or OpenAI alone versus the rest of your pipeline, Lisa?
Well, David, the best way to think about it is we are very, very pleased and honored to have both OpenAI and Meta as very deep partners. They were very early with us with MI455 and Helios. We've been working jointly on co-design, co-engineering. We're right now in the ramp-up of it. But the nice thing I can say is there's been tremendous interest in Helios and MI455 overall. We feel like we're in a great competitive position for exactly what the market needs right now in terms of training and inference. So we've had a broad set of customer interest. And I think the main point that I made yesterday was we are actually seeing initial forecasts above what our plans were, which is great. We are absolutely looking forward to broadening the customers that are using AMD in their data center infrastructure. And the interesting thing is customers are now not just talking to us about, hey, deliver me GPUs. They're actually talking about how can you give me the entire system that is required, including CPUs, including networking, and all of those pieces. So it really is a broadening of our data center infrastructure play. And when we look at the company today, it is truly being driven by the data center revenue ramp, which is really exciting. This is exactly what we've been planning for.
Yeah. Lisa, you mentioned hyperscalers and 2027. Street's still wrestling with the notion that hyperscaler free cash flow could drop, what, 70% maybe next year. Do you think there will be signs, reassuring signs of monetization from them in the course of 26?
Well, Carl, what I will say is maybe just repeat this comment about we are seeing the benefits of AI adoption. Every CEO, large enterprise CEO that I talk to is accelerating their use of AI. Every CEO is seeing the benefits of not just, let's call it near-term benefits of using AI to, let's call it, streamline some of the cost structure, but we're actually seeing long-term benefits, which really come when you change workflows and when you do your development differently and when you develop products differently. So I'm very, very bullish on what AI can do for companies going forward. And with that comes a return on investment, and it feeds on itself. So we've always said as the point would come when you see enterprise adoption increasing. I think we're seeing that here in the beginning of this year.
Let's talk competition. Lisa, if you take an NVLink 72 rack with 72 GPUs from NVIDIA, and you compare that to your MI450 Helios rack, tell me why I should use you and not NVIDIA?
Well, Jim, first of all, let me start with the market is huge. I think you say that all the time. The market is huge. We are very, very comfortable with our competitive position. We're actually excited about where we're differentiated. And everyone has different ways of doing things. In our case, we've been planning for this inference surge all along. And given our architecture, we have significant benefits when you're talking about inference and when you're talking about memory bandwidth and memory capabilities. There are lots of great products out there. I think we are confident that we have both a very, very strong accelerator roadmap as well as a broadening CPU roadmap, which everyone's talking about CPUs these days, which tells you a little bit about where the market is going.
Yeah, well, speaking of, I mean, the ratio of GPUs to CPUs in the data center, I think it had been 8-to-1 and 4-to-1. Now I think you're talking, I don't want to put words in your mouth, 1-to-1. What does that mean for how your revenue mix changes over time, Lisa, if that actually ends up being the true ratio?
Yeah, so we are exactly seeing that, David, and it comes from the expansion of these agentic AI workloads that are requiring, think about all of these agents that you're bringing out require a lot of general purpose compute to accomplish the tasks. So yes, we are seeing, a few years ago, you might have seen the ratio in AI between CPUs and GPUs being 1 CPU to 4 to 8 GPUs. And now going forward, we're seeing that increasingly get closer and to the point where it could be 1-to-1, or you could see even more CPUs than GPUs. If you have really efficient agents, that's what they're going to do. And what that means is we're already, let's call it, data center infrastructure is already the largest growth driver that we have at AMD. We forecasted long term that we would be over 35%, CAGR at the company level. I think we feel very confident in those estimates. We see the CPU business growing much faster than even we forecasted 6 months ago. That's a positive. We see very strong customer adoption on our accelerator base. So it's an exciting time. It's a very, very busy time. I think a lot of customers are counting on us, and we intend to deliver to that. But it's an exciting time to really be in the middle of this AI adoption curve.
All right, I totally agree with you. Obviously, I think it's just a huge market, but I've got to ask about your competitor, Intel. When I first met you, Intel was at 60, and your stock was at 5. You told me I was on the wrong horse. I switched horses because you were most compelling, as you remain. Now, Intel, look at this. They've got the 110. Of course, you're at 400, so it was still the right horse. But are you concerned about Intel with the man by the name of Lip Bhutan running it, that perhaps they are at last, after 25 years of what I regard as mediocre management, really do have someone at the top who is in your league?
Well, Jim, let me remind us again that it is a huge market out there. People need lots of compute. I am very, very confident in our roadmap. We have been at this for 5 generations now. We're just about to launch our 6th generation Venice roadmap. We are in the inner circle in talking to our customers in terms of what they need next. So we've been planning for this agentic AI point, a couple of years ago. So look, I think the key point is the market is huge, and that means lots of compute is required. That being the case, I think we feel very good about our opportunities here. We are growing faster than the market in a significant way. We guided the second quarter to over 70% growth in our server CPU market, and that will continue into the second half of the year. So although the market is increasing, our share of the market is also increasing, and that's on the strength of our roadmap and our very strong customer relationships.
Well, I would thank you. This is the biggest change I've ever seen in 42 years of investing. You're right in the heart of it. Lisa Su runs AMD. Thank you for coming on the show. Great quarter.
Thanks so much, guys.